Okay, so what we're going to be doing here is, like I did on the first one, and I'm going to walk you through in the second one here, is what we're doing is we're machining a 4-inch V-band onto this Borg Warner housing. I believe it's a T6, it's a 76 millimeter forced induction turbo. I've already gone ahead and done this one here. So now the next step for this second one here, running twin turbos. These are forced induction turbos, 76 millimeter turbos for the SUV. So now what we're going to be doing, it's actually relatively simple. It makes it a lot easier on a CNC lathe because there's no bed to worry about on a conventional lathe. But if you don't know, so this is more like, it's a Marmon mount, 5-inch, I guess, if you want to call it. But that would pretty much go there. Originally, so I'm going a 4-inch. I kind of had this tacked up there, and the spacing was just too much. It's a tight, constrained area. The other option was to go to the 5-inch Marmon to a 4-inch reducer, but it still adds almost the length that this was here, which was still going to be a problem. So I was a little hesitant at first of trying to get the fixture into my lathe, but I'll swing the camera around and I'll show you. But what I'm doing is I have a hydraulic tail stock live center. I machined this out on the mill, and then just kind of crudely cut off the remaining stock, but it works. So it doesn't. These parts here don't make contact with that. But basically, it sits in there evenly, and a little hole for my live center tip, the point. And then let me swing the camera around and I'll show you, and we'll actually get one set up in there. So hopefully you can see this. What I wound up doing is I had a piece of 4140, machined it down to the step of the turbo. So you have a step here. You have this first step, and then this longer step here, the final ID of the back side of the turbo. So what that does is that sits on there. The tolerances are not that critical. This actually helps as a guide because I machine this surface down to this flush with this surface here. I just want to make sure that it's sitting on all the way. All right. So now we got that set up in here, and we'll just check it. Now, I'm gonna get my glasses on. I've pretty much been running this with the door semi-open. I had modified, kind of like altered some of the tooling as it sits in there to be able to get past this, the T6 flange, before it strikes my turret. But that looks pretty good. They're not perfect, obviously, from the factory. It doesn't have to be that perfect. Now, I can see just by visual on this side, everything is good there. But on this side, it's not perfect. But there's plenty of meat there to be able to machine that down and achieve what we need to be able to put that T4 flange on there. So I want to get the camera in a better position, and I'll time lapse this of me kind of cutting this one here. All right, so we're all set machining these two. Again, it's a twin turbo. But there we have our 4-inch V-band, which works out perfectly on this. No issues there. Makes it a lot easier. It is, again, a tight, real confined space. In the front, these turbos are low. I moved a lot of stuff around. I didn't like the way it was. Also, there are future plans for different engine. There's going to be an LS in here now. So the turbos were kind of up and back behind the front tires, and getting to it isn't easy at all. Getting to the engine and then making headers would have sucked. I could do it. I'm just kind of tired of doing it. If I can't do most of it on machining now, I mean, call me a hypocrite, but I just don't want to do it. So I went ahead and purchased the Flowtech headers. I figured for $250, you can't really beat it. And if they crack, I can weld them, and if they go bad, it's $250. I happily put a set of those on every year. I want to get them bolted back up, and then hopefully get the V-bands in, and then I can start making sure the exhaust is really going to fit. If I do have to do a couple things, which I don't think I'm going to do just by measuring it with the wheel and everything else, and it's an 8-inch wide wheel, 15-inch rim. It being all-wheel drive, so it's a big tire up front there, but it's also a big wheel well, being the Envoy. So, but hopefully soon in the near future, I'll have a kind of full video out of all the work that has been done. A lot of work has been done so far. It's just not like doing a build project. I mean, I have a lot of content of it, but it's kind of piecemeal, so I'd rather kind of condense a lot of that stuff and then make a series of build videos with it. Some of the stuff, the step-by-step instructional stuff, is like kind of annoying. A lot of people do like it, but for me, just putting it all together kind of really sucks and explaining it. So, but I wanted to film a lot of this. This is pretty cool doing the V-band stuff here. So building race car stuff, the generic roll cage, all that stuff like that. Everybody does it on YouTube, and it's really not the greatest content out there. So now all the machine work is done. We got our 4-inch V-band machined out of the housing there. Again, that's an S400 Borg Warner housing. So we had that Marmon mount on there, so we decided to do a 4-inch V-band just for space. So it's actually pretty simple. 2 4-inch 90s to a true 180, another 90 at the bottom, a 45 here, and then a straight shot out to the side of the bumper. And it's the same on the other side. I'll bring you around the other side. This side is a little closer to the steering rack there, so the boot, the rubber boot. The rack is offset to clear the front diff. I kind of have it mocked up here so you see the CV axle. But what I could do, I guess, is do like a heat shield or a kind of a fire boot over that, so I don't melt it. But it came out pretty good. I'm real happy with it. Again, real simple, nice and compact. Again, being all-wheel drive, we got to be cautious of the room. Probably a little bit more bends than I'd like, but that's the only real way to get it to kind of dump out the side here. What I also wound up doing is I wanted to hold the bottom of the bumper, so I put a Zeus bracket there. I bent that up, 1/4-inch Molly, and then there's your Zeus on the outside. The bumper, the hole was pretty big. I didn't have to do anything to the hole there because the original OEM bumper bracket or whatever was in here, I forgot, but that hole was already there, so it made it real easy. There was no real way. I didn't want to make some big elaborate bracketry and waste a bunch of tubing just to hold this bottom corner. So I decided to put it on there. I don't think that's going to get hot enough to melt that, and even if it does, I really don't care. It would take a long time for that to even show or distort. It's all the way at the bottom. So that's nice. It'll help protect that. Since it's a 25.5 chassis, our exhaust is not lower than the chassis. I do have to cut those back. Those bars do run pretty far forward, and I'll swing the camera around and show that. but they're only going to cut back so much so that they can run into the crash bar, which is right there, which you should just be able to see. There are, for the bumper for the top, there are Zeus fasteners that hold kind of the plastic form and the plastic internal bracketry that holds like the headlights, stuff like that. So I'll show you that in a sec. And then the OEM bracket, which is probably hard to make out with the light, but there it is. They break off a lot. I kind of moved them down a little bit, so I had some gap. Probably because this thing's going to rattle pretty good, so I didn't want to make them contact too much. So, but there we have a 4-inch coming out. Now with the wastegates, I don't want them dumping underneath the car. I want the exhaust to come out. This to be an eventual drag and drive. So I think, depending on how it's going to look, the inlet for the turbos right there. I've CNC machined a T6 divided to 3-inch V-band. So that'll go up and then go right to the header, which is right there. I know I want it to dump out. It may come out on the top here. And then obviously I'll make the trim ring, or have Sen make the trim ring, or cut it out. And I think, I'm not too certain yet. I don't want it to look stupid, and the easiest way for it is to be come through here. I suppose it could come over the top and then come down. That could be look a little nicer and tuck it. I don't want to kind of like spaghettiing and looking like crap through here. So I could have it come off of the header, the wastegate, and then come out of there. So not too sure yet, but definitely want it to dump outside of the car, obviously. So and you can see here, I made my own turbo mount with an O-ring and the AN fitting on the bottom. With the Envoy, it has a nice huge 5-inch hole for the fog light, which it had kind of a molded retainer for the fog light bracket, so I just obviously cut it out. I just have to clean it up a little bit better. This bumper isn't the greatest, but for the first kind of shakedown, it's going to stay until either I wrap it, paint it, or get a new one. Same on this side, so we have the patricide turbo with this dump. I still have to trim this back, or at least angle it down a little bit differently. You can see our Zeus fastener as well on that side, and everything is mirrored pretty good. Sorry for the light, but there, as you can see, this side is done. You can also see in here we have, I'll pop the hood open. But here, again, it gives it plenty of room. Dumps out the side. And yeah, this side's a little bit tighter because the frame, I guess the way the frame is bumped out on this side. But still, there's still plenty of room back there. So again, these are identically mirrored. The mounts where the turbos are, they're identical angle and how they're pitched back. I think what I'm going to wind up doing is for the front turbo inlet is take some PVC 5-inch and just kind of make a little bit more direct ram air effect into it. For a drag and drive, I'm not too certain. I think I can fit one of those turbos. I have a lot of room back here inside of here, so I can fit one of those cheaper turbo filters on there to keep any crap out for the drag and drive stuff, and then just pop them off. But if I put that kind of PVC tube molded into there, then I mean, I guess it should work. It shouldn't see too much crap going into there. It is pretty high up. This is almost ride height. I think it's going to sit 1.5 inches lower, but it shouldn't be too bad. But thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing, and definitely like, share, comment on this video. It really helps, motivates me to keep putting out more machining content. I got to get back into it now. I've had a lot of jobs I couldn't post, so I have a couple coming up here that I'm going to piece together and I'll upload here. But this is a quick and easy one for me, so I'm going to get it up there. So thanks again.